Views. Could we have a motion on those minutes?
Move to approve the meeting minutes from September 27th.
We have a second. We have a motion made and seconded to approve the meeting minutes for September 27th, 2023, and that would be for public release. Those in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, looks like approval. October 2, the meeting minutes for October 2nd, which is our first monthly meeting in October, which was a typical select board meeting. Those in favor, we have a motion on those minutes?
I would move to approve the open session meeting minutes from October 2nd.
Okay, we have a second?
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the October 2nd meeting minutes that were held in open session for approval. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Looks like a vote. We have October 2nd, 2023. We've got 2033 on that. Most of us would have a hard time getting to that meeting.
Sorry.
On October 2nd, 2023, the executive session for union discussion, which would be not for release at this time. We need a motion to approve.
I move to approve the October 2nd executive session meeting minutes for the police department union for approval but not release.
We have a motion made in second.
Second?
Seconded by Mr. McGuinness. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Did it again.
Okay, October 2nd, 2023, a second executive session for reason number 5, which would be approved but not for release.
I move to approve the October 2nd executive session meeting minutes for reason number 5 for approval but not release.
Second?
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the October 2nd, 2023 executive session meeting minutes not for release. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, October 3rd, the public hearing with Barre Reservoir Dam issues, and we had a public hearing that was held with state officials.
I move to approve the meeting minutes for the special select board meeting on October 3rd, 2023.
I'm gonna have to abstain from that, I was not here.
We have an abstention. I will second that motion then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well-attended meeting, it was good. October 2nd, October 10th, the second interview with candidate Tammy Martin, or second interview. We need to have an approval of those meeting minutes, please.
Move to approve the October 10th select board meeting minutes.
We have a motion made
Second?
and seconded, and those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we cleaned up the meeting minutes. As you can see, we've had a busy October so far. Town Administrator report.
Hello. I'll be brief tonight. Just a couple of quick things. First of all, the board had continued a poll hearing this evening for Williamsville Road, and we've not received the recommendation back from the DPW, nor the utility company, which was gonna go out there and stake the location in the field. So just ask that that be continued to the board meeting on 11/6, and there's several other poll petitions that are in that packet, so we'll have a bunch of them on that evening.
Okay, anything else?
Under the town administrator report, I
Yes.
said that I would get back to you with an update on the ARPA plan. So we received the American Rescue Plan, which was established back in 2021. Federal funding, we received, Barry's amount was $1,727,119. And to date, committed and expended, $837,137, and that includes the newer items, and I'll just list them out, I can send it to you. The police server, which you approved at your meeting on 9/18, $4,679. The acquisition of a new ambulance for the fire department, back approved on May 15th of 2023, $304,752. And then the other item that's fairly recent is the Ruggles Lane emergency lighting, approved on October 2nd, 2023, in the amount of $14,000. There are other things that are here, and I'm not really sure what the status of them is, but I can kind of read them off to you, and you might say to me, Greg, we did that, or we didn't do that. A municipal fiber extension project, $176,000.
I'm suspecting that's Spring Hill Road.
I agree. Ruggles Lane parking lot,
Yes, that,
$134,000. 10-wheel dump truck.
That was like 45,000?
No, well, maybe, you have memorized. Fire station insulation,
30,000?
7,000 I have.
Only 7, that's right, the guys did it themselves. We had authorized 30,000.
Police department body cameras, 6,948. And then the other item that I have, and these are all from 2022, radio replacement for public safety, $144,574. So those are the, I'll send it out to you, because I actually had hoped that the accountant was gonna update this for me, and I would be able to give you a nice clean sheet that I was 100% certain that's where we were, but that didn't happen.
Mhm.
So, again, the total expenditures and commitments of $837,137.
What I would like to consider, and, you know, as we get the final numbers on this, if you can report those final numbers to us at our next meeting.
Yeah,
Just because I really would like to push on Charter and say, we've got 16 houses on 1/2 mile street. What would it cost us to do that extension, as we did with Spring Hill Road with Matrix? Because at least we could begin to address some issues. And we have a couple other streets where there's like 5 houses very closely together that are easy to get to. Just so that we can begin to move in the appropriate direction. I also had conversations with Dan Jewell from the Budget and Finance Committee. We talked a little bit about Starlink. Starlink is the either Jeff Bezos or
That's the
Elon Musk guy. Elon Musk guy. Okay, they have, you know, satellite driven.
yeah, the thing that flies overhead every
Yeah.
now and then.
Well, they have
These are
indicated,
low Earth orbit, they're a
Yeah.
little different from,
well, they've indicated that those, I mean, versus Hughes, you know, a lot of people have
much
those.
different,
It's
yeah.
much different. And it's about $750 per house for the stuff. And they send you the stuff, and you would have to have it installed. They then charge you $85 a month for the basic package, sort of like cable TV, for the basic package, which is, I don't know how many megabytes, whatever. But you can add to that and bring up your speed, and up to the three digits, you know. So I'm wondering if the committee might want to have a conversation with some representative that can talk to us about a prototype, where we could maybe do 2 or 3 homes that are out in the middle of, you know, places where there's no poles, where we can't get charted to them, whether or not it would be worth our consideration, where we would pay for the satellite itself, we would pay for the installation. It says that the homeowner, is so simple, the homeowner can do it alone, but I think we'd have to be in charge of that variable in order to ensure that it was installed properly and see it if it worked. And just see is it a possibility for some of our outlying places?
It'd
At
be more
least,
cost effective than getting Charter up there.
yeah, and
I would agree.
and they
Yeah.
still have to pay a monthly fee, the town wouldn't pay that, they would have to pay that, maybe we'd do it for the first 3 months just to check it out. And if it really does what people have said it does, maybe we should consider it for some of our really outlying places, so that, you know, that we have done something to accommodate their needs.
It's pretty neat technology.
Well, they say it's very neat technology, and if you go on and you read a little bit about it, you know, there's the complaint that if you don't buy the package, which is like $125 a month, which really gives you a lot more, you know, power and stuff, that it's not as fast, and some, you know, there's not as much applauding that. But when the people, you know, move up to it, the concern that some people have is, how many satellites are we going to have spinning around the Earth, or whatever. I'm really concerned that we've been unable to successfully address the needs that have been brought to the town's attention on numerous occasions about the lack of, you know, broadband access. So I thought we could, you know, maybe try to get a street or two that has a lot of houses clustered and are really not off the beaten path too far, and get a price on that, see if we can move forward with that at all, because we have to get this money spent. And do you know what the deadline is on that, Greg?
You have to have it committed by December
2024,
December
right?
24, yeah,
And spent by the 2026.
Yeah.
right?
correct,
Yeah.
but committed by 2024.
But I mean, I could get it committed, so, and
Yeah,
at any rate, if you would think about that, we don't need to take a vote
Yeah.
on it tonight, but please,
Yeah.
Starlink,
Mm.
do a little research on that yourselves, and I'll
Yeah.
bring some documents that I've garnered, but
Oh, yeah,
it's just worth it, I think it's worth a conversation. And I think there are people who would say, well, you guys wanna pay for it? Because they would pay to Charter. I don't know, what is Charter's monthly charge?
I don't know.
I think it's $100 about, isn't it?
Well, you can get it
Yeah.
lower than
I
that
get
for
it.
lower speeds. but-
Okay, well, whatever it is, that's awful that I can't even tell you what I pay. I think it's around $100 a month.
I think it's around 60 for the lowest speeds.
Oh, really?
But
Oh, okay.
I think their lowest is 2. I don't know, it was,
Is that like a dial-up speed?
no, not, not 2, yeah.
Well, I mean, I just think we should look at Starlink.
Yeah.
It's been very popular in rural Maine. Makes sense? Okay, so,
Is there a Starlink representative we could?
well, I
Well, that's gonna be,
yeah, I'm sure there is. I'm sure
I mean,
they
that's,
would be talking to us virtually potentially, but,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that could be one challenge with it, just with the way, issues have come up with other companies developed in a similar fashion, not having,
The stuff. Well,
maintenance
if
issues and
not-
those along those lines.
If not, it
but-
can't be any slower than working with Charter.
That's so true.
Okay,
And Charter appears to be, uncooperative.
well, I think that they're not uncooperative, their price point went up so extraordinarily high that we were looking at this saying, what? So we started off in the 300,000s for fixing the rest of the town, and now we're up to nearly $1 million, over 700,000. We've tried thinking about other options, working with an attorney, and there's a level of frustration with the attorney figuring that we're not willing to be like really forward-thinking, where they want us to just say, you know what, we're gonna run our own cable. We don't own the poles, we don't have we don't have any way to get access to licensing the poles. We don't have can you imagine running another, the cable company and having our cable trucks running around fixing and doing? I know that some of the small towns have done that, but that was before, okay, they did it before they had any competition, because they couldn't get anybody, like in Leverett.
Right.
That's a town that does that. And they've been very successful, but they have to run their own company. Or hire out, hire private companies to go fix the lines if they're down and so forth. So, anyway.
I don't know what speed Starlink is at, but Charter, their lowest is 200 megabits per second max. We usually get like 50 to 100. So
Okay.
they give you their maximum that you can get at that price range. Sure. I looked into Starlink quite a while ago. It was before they had more in our area, so it wasn't an option at the time.
They say it's an option online
Yeah.
for us.
Oh yeah, of several months ago, you could actually see when they were launching them in this area. They actually went right
Oh, yeah.
overhead. There's a whole line of probably 50 satellites. It was pretty cool to watch.
A couple of different times, actually.
Oh yeah.
So I would just say, do a little research on it, and we'll
Mm.
bring some to,
Okay, so yeah, so this has our area at 25 plus megabits per second. So,
not great,
well, 25 plus. I don't know what the plus means.
yeah. Well, if you go in and you read their thing, they have a graduated amount that you can
Mhm.
pay for. The basic's 85. If you go up and do more, it's 100
How
plus.
soon is that available for this area?
Well, they make, like, if you go online and do any research with it, which is preliminary, I admit,
Yeah.
it's like tomorrow morning.
Oh.
I'll call up and, I'll just go online, order it, it's gonna be delivered to my home.
Yeah.
And it's
Look at
very
that.
simple to install and all of that, so it says.
Yeah.
But it seems a little bit too simple
Well,
to
if it's
me.
at 25 megabits per second, that's faster than dial-up, but not as fast as cable.
Yeah. Well, right now, anything they've got is, but I wonder, do they have as fast as cable? I don't know.
Yeah.
They make like it's an equivalent, and its streaming is easy and possible. You
Mhm.
cannot stream on HughesNet.
Mhm.
I have
I'm not familiar with
Viasat, and it seems to be, it's satellite, and it seems to be pretty quick. And we watch movies and everything.
You
so-
do, huh?
Yeah, on Viasat. Usenet was, you could, but it was not as good as Viasat.
Okay, so
Yeah.
Viasat's better.
Viasat is definitely better.
What do you pay for a month for that?
I think it's a 120 something, and I can't tell you the speed, John, I don't know. It's the big package, whatever, it's 126 or something is for package.
When you go home, just type into Google speed test and then hit run.
John, I
I'll
think
tell
I think I gave you the wrong map.
Oh,
I gave you the upload speed.
Oh, okay, that's a big
Here's
difference.
your download.
Okay, 150 plus.
Well, that's not bad.
No, so that's on par with the lower end of cable.
Stable.
I apologize for giving you the wrong map, but at least I caught it.
Yeah, so here it shows 180, I'm sorry, 81 to 182.
Hmm.
So
And,
that's faster than what I
and I mean,
got.
we could also look at Viasat as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, because if we were to help people at least garner, you know, that access, that
Mhm.
is at least something that's a positive, you know, positive access to broadband speed. Okay,
Craig, you mentioned on the ARPA, it made me think of something with the ambulance.
Yeah,
We're buying an ambulance out of ARPA. and
we are.
Now, there was some question as to, or it's been some general thought that the 5% grant match for the fire truck or the tanker, obviously, we're getting 2 new fire trucks apparently, so there was some thought that was gonna be paid out of that, and,
So it's not here.
okay,
And it's not here. and-
No, that's-
and-
because that's the federal
It's-
fund, that's
it's not
federal.
that, it's not that grant, it's a different grant. There's a grant that went directly to the fire department, which the fire department has on numerous occasions applied for. It's sort of.
FEMA,
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not anything to do, or it's not in competition with ARPA.
I understand that, but
Oh, okay.
the 5% grant match is supposed to be certified from the town.
Yeah.
And I was under the understanding that was thought of that they could use that for the 5%, the ARPA for the 5% grant match, what they can't because FEMA doesn't allow you to have, to pay that 5% grant match with another federal fund.
Well, it would make sense.
So I was just wondering if that was
Well, that
thought
was,
of as, the-
well, that was nothing that we ever voted, and I don't even know if it was ever discussed with us about that.
To use,
No, none of it
to
was.
use ARPA for it?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't believe.
I don't know if it was a
maybe
discussion, but
was.
it's not in the list of
No.
things we've approved.
No, okay.
And it's not in the, I don't think it's an appropriation that we have in our
No,
accounts,
no.
so.
Well, I mean, we're 2 years away at least before the fire truck arrives
Fire
here.
truck one,
Yeah.
which is the smaller of the pumper trucks, as I understand. I understand it.
I think.
But yeah, well, that'll have to be addressed though.
Yeah, well, I know that Rob Bogowski, fire chief, could make himself available, for example, when we're having a meeting, to
Mhm.
call in to us to answer some of these questions, because I freely admit that other people within, who are sort of filling in for him, can't answer some of the questions
Yep.
about this issue, because this was before their time being involved. And
Mhm.
I know that he would make himself available. He has emailed me and said, just let me know when the time and stuff, and he says, and I can work his schedule. So that he can work his schedule. So I don't have any idea when his deployment will be over, so. I mean,
the
perhaps he does.
FEMA grant, so when you get that grant, before you get the grant,
Mhm.
you, that 5%, it has to be, something, it has to be certified from the town that, the town's gonna pay for it. So, in order to get that grant,
We must have said something.
someone must have somehow certified that, or wrote a letter, because there's a letter that goes back to FEMA, and that has to be signed by somebody here.
Well, I mean, it must have been signed by Jessica.
Mark, I looked for that, I haven't found anything on that. I may be looking in the wrong place,
Yep.
but I've not seen anything on that.
Right.
I think that maybe a call to Jessica, just in case
Yeah,
she has it in a
'cause I haven't-
folder that we haven't seen.
It could be, I searched the electronic records, which I
Yeah.
can't admit I'm not necessarily the best searcher when it comes to
Well,
that
when you're
stuff.
searching somebody else's records, it's always a challenge.
Yeah,
Well, I
It's
think.
just been a question I've had
Yeah.
for quite some time, and I believe I mentioned at one point.
Okay.
And I just kind of want the answer. I don't understand it, and I want to understand it.
Okay, let's see if we can get some information from
I'll
Jessica.
reach out to her.
Otherwise, let's call the chief.
Yeah.
See if he has some-
I'll reach out to her, I guess that's the easiest way.
Sandy, to your recollection in the minutes, I mean, before Mark was on the board, or even John was on the board, there may be something in there. Do you have a search engine that can go work in your minutes?
Yeah, I can,
I just wondered if you could
Pick
just
out
say,
certain
yeah,
words.
pick out, fire engine. That may be so prolific, you just don't want to do that. I don't know. I'm thinking that there may have been a discussion when Mr. O'Sullivan was here, and even
But
me.
It could have been just conversation too, that
Yeah,
didn't get pulled in or
yeah,
whatever. But if it was signed for, it would have been motioned, I would believe.
yeah,
I'll look.
yeah, okay. Okay, anything else?
No,
No, you all set? Selectmen reports, Mark? Anything?
No, I'm good.
John?
I don't have anything.
I just have one thing, and since my friend Sam is here, he can help me with this report. Sam and I were at a DPW meeting the other night, as was Mark, and we witnessed, I thought, a very interesting way to accommodate the need of the public to have us be more transparent, and it was the simplest machine I've seen. $1,000 worth of technology, a cone that sits here, and connected to a laptop with a Zoom account. And basically, if I was speaking, I was on the screen. There's a gallery, and then I would be pulled out and kind of highlighted. If Sam had something to say, that thing would pick him up in his picture. If Mark said something, we just practiced, okay,
Mhm.
admittedly. I'm not saying we,
And it was magic.
and it was magic. I mean, it was far more sophisticated, and I was, I know Mark got to see it, I got to see it, but I'm hoping that we can bring the contraption here and see, and especially to have you guys look at it and see what you think, because it, to me, looked perfect for the Conservation Commission stuff, for the Budget and Finance Committee stuff, and the town would have to get a Zoom account, and it would give us our own personal account that the public could access, rather than having Rick have, Dagon be responsible with his personal account, which is a little iffy. So I would just say, maybe at our next meeting, Sandy, I'll have us have that here, and maybe ask Mary Ann to, also have, spend some time with it, and Dan Jewell, they can come in and either see it with Greg operating it or you operating it, because it would make sense to use some PEG money to purchase those things for a couple boards. They're very simple to operate. It would mean getting a town Zoom account. The only Zoom account we used to have was Jessica's personal account
Mhm.
that we would use, no?
No, what it was is you had to pay for, they wouldn't invoice.
Had a credit
us,
card.
So you had to use your credit card.
So it was her credit card.
It was her credit card.
And you
she-
reimbursed.
Yeah.
Okay, so at any rate, I think we might find that as an easy solution to some of our problems.
Yeah, I think we just need to better understand how Zoom works with accessing videos later. I assume it can record, not just live, but
Yeah,
we
it
have to
can.
figure out how that then gets distributed.
Yeah, well, because I work
Yeah.
for an organization that we have Zoom, and that's what we do. And it's archived because obviously it's a professional organization. Many times we're meeting with the legislature,
Mhm.
and so things are archived according to their requirements with Zoom.
Okay.
And the legislature uses Zoom. We have access to, for example, we could do Google Meet for free. Google Meet has some limitations, but it's very easy to use.
Mhm.
So that's another option. You could use that setup with Google Meet, which is all free, at least right now. But Google kind of is like takes over everything. So once, it's like this locks down Google account. That's a very strange thing to operate out of sometimes. And that's why it's, no, he didn't share it with me, I didn't share it with you. And so getting into each
Mhm.
other's Google accounts always is a little more challenging. But anyway, I thought that that was really good news,
Yeah.
because I had this idea that we were gonna be spending multiple tens of thousands of dollars to get a system that would do what this does, and this system does do what that does. It's, it's great for the kinds of meetings that we generally have here. And should we have a meeting that we'd want more, oomph for, for example, like the town meeting, Rick actually comes with, right?
He comes with.
And they actually do the whole shebang. So if we had a really important hearing or whatever, we could expand that or force people to get in this room, which we're trying to do with policy. Okay,
Would that mean that we wouldn't have to hear the sound?
well, the only thing, that sound, the only problem with that, we've talked about, Rick, that has to be somewhere here, and it is irritating. If you sit back there, we can't hardly hear it here. but it makes a lot of noise, and Mark's pointed it out to me, because
Yeah.
he can hear it.
I hear.
He says he hears that instead of what we're talking about sometimes. So that is a problem, and,
So it needs to be somewhere in the building.
yeah, well, somewhere close enough where it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's got enough, you know.
Mhm.
We thought about putting it out there, but there was a reason he said not a good spot with people walking to and from elevators.
Mhm.
But,
I think that then it just brings up, you know, the third floor, if we're still gonna use a
Yes.
system like this, maybe there's a better place up there for
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
But,
also, Greg, I just wanted to, just chat again about when you think we could do the dumpster thing. I just don't want to get snowfly, maybe within the next
Yeah, but
6
I
weeks.
reached out to the DPW on that,
Okay,
because they're the ones that should be
Right.
able to provide and have access to that.
well, and they're gonna have to also provide the muscle power, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, and I hate to give them one more thing, they're down a mechanic, they're down a tech truck driver, but we really need to get the junk out of here.
Yeah, it needs to go.
It needs to go. And I'm happy to come and help,
Same here.
but I'm the person who they would, person would like to say, Maureen, when you get close to the dumpster, don't let go. But I can take that kind of criticism. Anyway, there's stuff in the third floor that needs to be probably cut up with a
Cut
chainsaw.
up,
We've
yeah.
talked about that, and throw it into the dumpster over the fire escape. Because coming up and down, even in the elevator, with some of that stuff is crazy.
Yeah.
And there's some newer sort of things that might be of something we should keep for, if they ever did a youth program again. But there's other stuff that was brought up there that I think people donated, good thing, thinking good, but some of it was really kind of not what we want to keep up there. Old refrigerators and so on. And I know there's some of the refrigerators, we're gonna have to have probably DPW move to the dump and pay to have it taken care of. We just can't throw that in the dumpster, I know.
Well,
As far as,
anything that's, steel or light iron, something like that, there's several local guys will come and take it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you're a good person to get.
Yeah, I can
You
make
and I are
that
gonna be in charge of this.
I can, that's no problem.
Oh, okay.
yeah, and as far as future youth programs go too, obviously if we're changing that room up there, but I've, been speaking with Joe at the library, he has, ideas for different rooms that aren't being effectively used right now that could become
At the
something
library.
useful for that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which is great,
Yeah,
which
we-
is great.
yeah.
Could be a better spot for it in general.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your patience on my report. Anything you, Mark?
No.
There's nothing, okay. Correspondence, just some quick items that are filling your packet. But Greg, did you want to make comment on any of those?
We received these reports on bridges in town.
Yeah.
And since Barre is kind of wet and there's a lot of bridges, I figure you may want to see these. This is from the Mass DOT, an inspection report for Valley Road over Prince River.
Yeah.
I guess typically the bridges are in sufficient condition, but you've got to read through the detail and see what the ratings are that the state has. These also do go to the DPW. So
Yeah.
I think as just a general practice, you should receive copies of them.
Okay,
Whether there's anything that becomes them or not, it remains to be seen, but they happen quite often and
now, when they say that, now, let me say, where do I think this is located? When they say Valley Road, Prince River,
Glen Valley.
okay, that's the Glen Valley
Yep.
one. That's not the one that's down, is that Southbury Road now, the one that's down, E.J. Prescott?
Yeah, that's not this one.
Okay, so Valley Road is the one that's really in bad condition, they think is okay.
Well,
It just needs.
it's just the road surface versus
Okay.
the superstructure.
Okay, so we're good
So-
there.
they have a photo of it. It doesn't help me, but you may recognize it.
Well, as soon as Mark told me where it
Page
is.
16,
Yeah,
page
Yeah.
14.
Page 13 has a
15.
good
yeah,
top surface one with some perspective on it.
oh, yeah, perfect.
And then next photo down, you can see the hairline cracking under the deck.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and they say this is like in okay condition.
You should see the ones that aren't in good condition. or
Really?
Okay condition.
Wow. I
Poison
mean,
ivy on all four corners, by the way.
Yeah,
It says, yeah.
okay, thank you, Greg, for making us aware of that and providing that information. Dam safety surveillance monitoring reports, you've sent more information along to
So,
us.
yeah, this is a letter from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, FERC, concerning some dam reports in the community.
Mhm.
And pretty much just indicating that the the dam, there's additional documentation that's required by the owners, not the town
Mhm.
of Barre, but by private owners.
Yeah, because Powder
Before
Mill,
the federal
Powder Mill is
agency.
owned by that Mr. Wright, right?
Yep,
The guy who
yep.
does,
Ware River Power.
yeah, Ware River Power.
Loop right. And then the one in Southbury by the
Yep,
old Barry Wall as
yep.
well.
Okay, thank you for that. Nothing we have to take any action on at this
Nope,
point in time?
Not either
Okay.
one of those things, but again, just, I think you should see those things,
Okay,
especially the bridge inspections.
okay, thank you. Special town meeting consideration of setting a date. Greg,
so
I think
my-
this is your thing?
Yeah, so my thought is kind of looking backwards, going from furthest out date. We typically would hold our tax classification hearing in late November or early December. And the reason why we need that is we need the Department of Revenue to approve the town's tax rate sometime in the month of December so that we can get tax bills in the mail before January 1st.
Right,
So that's kind of the critical piece. And I know we have things that are out there such as funding contract settlements
yeah.
and.
Well, I would just tell you, it looks to me as if the next meeting in mediation is not till November 2nd.
I know.
So I'm a little nervous, but that may be a contract we don't end up funding until we get almost to the date before annual town meeting. We just have to go back retro.
That was my concern, but my other concern is we're holding some money in aside that we can raise and appropriate to
Right.
settle those contracts. Once we set our tax rate, we can't add those monies back in, those monies, so to
Right.
speak, are gone.
Right,
So even if the contracts aren't settled, it makes some sense to take those monies and put them in a
Escrow.
reserve account
Yeah.
or
Well,
whatever,
yep.
so that we can access them at a later date.
makes sense. And we need the books closed.
We do.
Because if we don't get the books closed pretty soon, we're not gonna be able to get a special town meeting in December.
Yeah, we won't be able to appropriate free cash.
Yeah,
So-
it's a
so- So
problem.
free cash will be off the table until we get to the spring of 2024.
Yeah, we just can't do that.
And like I said, but my main concern is the amount of money that we set aside for contract settlements.
172,000?
Yeah, that we need to take action and set that aside. And
Yeah.
the question is whether you wanted to take another look at the town administrative bylaw. I know the 250th anniversary committee was in to see both you and I concerning money that they need for
Please,
police and fire
Yeah.
details, and there was some confusion of who's gonna do what.
yeah.
So, we could address that also. I don't see a lot of things, but just looking at, I did speak with Ellen, and she said that the 28th of November would be good for her, which is a Tuesday. Working again backwards, that would mean we'd have to have it signed on the board on the your meeting on the 13th. We'd have to have a special meeting posted on the 14th of November. And then that would give us an opportunity for article deadlines, let's say.
Could we move that to the 29th of November?
Yeah, I think we could. Yeah, she's okay.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah,
I have, I mean, not that you can't do a special town meeting without me, but I have a presentation that night.
No, I think that
Okay.
would work with Ellen. It's just, these whole things require a little bit of advance.
Oh, absolutely, well, like you
And
say,
ramp up time.
tracking backward.
And so my concern is just kind of getting that money set aside. Because, again, once we let that opportunity to go,
I know.
then those monies are gone.
And I
You
think,
said that we're waiting on the books to close.
To get a free cash certification, that's correct. Yeah.
Right. Is there anything holding that up? Is this just a normal part of the process at this point?
well, I would say that, the closing the books should be done by, I'm gonna say, within the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
I know that the recap sheet, the accountant worked through the recap sheet with the Department of Revenue, and I attended that meeting. But I know that it's a burden to close the books. It's so, it's making sure everything's posted to the right account and all of that stuff. And we have been terribly slow as a town doing that. Last year, we didn't close the books until after February 15th.
Right.
We in the year before that, between the Chapter 90 issues and a very late close of the books. And at that time, it was, well, we didn't have a treasurer, it was, problematic, and, lots of other things going on, but there's no excuse for us this year. And even the Department of Revenue made an appointment to come down to see us, to walk us through the recap sheet, and they're serious about, we should not be, not having stuff done so that we can't even do a Schedule 19 until February.
Yeah, most towns will close out their books in September.
Oh, yeah.
And in some communities that have been in where the accountant is short-staffed,
Yeah.
we've brought in.
Yeah,
our
well, we've done that,
accounting firm to
we've
help
done
do
that
it.
here too. we've done that here.
And, you know, it sometimes may be worth doing something like
If
that
we have to.
and letting stuff delay and delay and delay. And
Well, perhaps you could meet with the accountant and see if there's some issue that's slowing her up, or maybe she's closer now than she was 2 weeks ago when we met with the Department of Revenue.
I'm just asking that we kind of keep that date in mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I said, time is of the essence.
Well, see, but we would have to have our books closed and everything in the Department of Revenue to have free cash available to us at the special town meeting.
100% right. And,
Because it takes them at
I
least.
assume there's some approval we would need back from them
Well,
as well.
that's
and
what I
that
mean,
can
that's, so if we get maybe our stuff in within the next 2.5 weeks,
take- Mhm.
we could have a chance of having available free cash at a special town meeting
For November 29th.
by November 29th. Because it's probably a busier time for them than it is in February, because had to be the last of the Mohegans certifying free cash.
yeah, because most towns will want to have their free cash
Yes.
available for fall town meeting.
Yes. Because most towns have a fall town meeting,
Mhm.
cleaning up what they couldn't do in November.
Yeah, because what it makes sense is to go back and look and see what our year-end revenues were.
Yep.
And either those revenues can be adjusted upwards or downwards.
Yep.
So that you're not setting a tax rate based upon
Yep.
numbers that were developed before the year was closed.
Right.
So most towns have a spring and fall town meeting?
Yep.
Well, they have the annual and a special.
Oh, okay.
So John, many towns have a fall town meeting.
Mm.
Fall town meeting can be for like capital improvement plans, zoning articles and things
But it
like
is a
that.
special town meeting, it's not like, just a regular spring special meeting.
Depends on what it's called. I mean,
Okay.
if it's in the charter, they call it the fall session of the annual town meeting, but
Mm.
since we don't have a charter, it would be a special town meeting.
Okay.
But I think it's still a good idea.
So are any of the other departments slowing this up at all, as far as closing the books?
That's an accountant question.
Yeah.
We don't know of any.
Not to my knowledge.
I
I
know
hope you
spoke
catch
about
up
the
with the accountant.
retainage, the sewer and water retainage, but they can't do it, excuse, you can't set the tax rate until that's done.
Yeah, so you're right, they would've closed out last fiscal year with substantial retained earnings.
Yeah.
Some of it went toward the budget mark. But you're right, but they do have an amount that was budgeted at the annual town meeting.
Yeah, right.
For retained earnings.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Question for the accountant then.
But they also have to set their rates.
Well, the rates were higher, remember, I spoke with you about this before.
Yeah.
The rates were higher, and there was a question on that, so. If it's not, if it's outside departments, we gotta get on them as well.
Absolutely.
Now, that's not holding up free cash though, right? That's just for setting the tax rate?
Yeah, that's a separate matter,
Yeah.
but it is a
Still
challenge.
something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
Okay.
But those challenges are fairly unique to Barre. Most times those things,
Yeah, I know,
they just happen.
because it's all about money.
They just happen because, I don't know whether sewer and water, whether they've appropriated too much money and that's what's gonna cause the rates to increase. I don't have
Yeah.
that level of detail.
Yeah. Well, at any rate, because otherwise, we'll have very little to do at a special town meeting.
Yeah,
If we have we'll just say the contracts, and
we can fund the one contract.
that's all we can do.
And the second contract, we can set those monies aside
Side.
so that they're available for
When-
a future town meeting to use.
Or the town meeting doesn't really have to produce, if they say this is for the police contract when settled, that's
Yeah,
fine.
If that's protocol. that's
Yeah, that's fine, because we don't have to wait till the annual to do that.
fine. No, or like I said.
If
schedules.
there's enough money within that $172,000,
Yeah.
I'm sure there would be. Okay, so you'll talk
Before
to Jean?
Aren't we going to try to solidify this chapter 70 town administrator rules
We're-
and regulations?
That's the next thing on the agenda,
the-
Sam, you're jumping.
At the town meeting?
That's up, we haven't had that discussion yet, but that's,
Okay.
we definitely are heading there right now. We're wrapping up
Well, I'm glad
accounting.
I'm still thinking, huh?
Yeah,
You're talking about that bylaw, right?
yeah,
Chapter
Yeah.
70.
Yeah, this one that needs some amending, but that's listed as draft.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be I assume that would be at the annual town meeting.
Well, you could do it as special.
Yeah.
I was under the impression that it was going to be done at the special, so that whatever town administrator one chooses, they have a good plan of attack and how to handle it. Otherwise, we're gonna be in unknown zone for another period of time.
Well, this gives a blueprint to the person who may take the position, that what they're responsible for and what they have the authority to do.
Right.
And I know that Matt Urban was really concerned and made numerous comments about, he felt that doing such a document would abdicate the selectmen's role and not give us enough authority, you know, in managing this person. And I don't feel that way at all, but, you know, I feel that the person needs to come in and have some obvious, clearly defined roles and responsibilities and authority. And if you don't have, if we just load you up with a bunch of responsibilities and no authority, we've just made it impossible for you to be successful. If you have to have the authority, and people have to recognize that the town agrees that this position has with it some authority, not everything, but some clear authority.
I think Matt Urban might have now somewhat difference of opinion.
I don't know about that, but, so that's my only concern. I just want to make certain that we clean it up a little bit from some of the comments that were made, and, you know, bring it back here maybe, and then let's see if we can run it up the flagpole at the special.
I mean, there were people that said that at the town meeting, they were surprised they hadn't seen it before.
Yeah.
But I know we held public hearings,
Yeah.
we put it out there on the town's website, and I thought we did a pretty good job, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, it's just new territory.
Mhm.
Yeah, well,
Yeah. And instead of it looking like a grab of the selectmen grabbing more power, I guess it looked, you know, like we were abdicating our responsibilities, and that wasn't the case. I mean, this, if nothing else, I would say if we don't get that, or if we're not gonna pursue that, we get a very strong job description that we all agree that authorizes that person to have the authority to do the job.
I agree. And I did some updates to the existing job description, but they weren't monumental because this chapter 70 was pending, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to deal with it until that went through, but that's, in the absence of a vote at town meeting, that's what we have is an updated job
Yeah.
description.
Following and enforcing policies that are already in place as well will help that.
So what we would, as far as the special town meeting goes, so on the 13th is when we would review and sign a warrant for that?
So no, I think, yeah, that'd be the date that we would sign,
Mhm.
but we would have articles,
Would open the warrant when?
open the warrant, have,
Yeah.
close the warrant on the 2nd,
Okay.
which I think is a Thursday before, and then for your meeting on the 6th,
Mhm.
have you an opportunity to meet with departments and review them, and decide whether you want to put their requests on or not put their requests on.
Well, if they give us any requests.
Right,
I mean, they may or may not.
right.
And if they do, if there seem to be something that should be held more to the annual town meeting, we can decline, whatever.
Certainly if they're major funding proposals that we
Yeah.
can't afford right now, then
Yeah.
there's no reason
Yeah.
to put them on the warrant.
Right. There may be some cleanup stuff we have to do, but maybe not. Any further comments, questions, concerns about getting ready for the potential special town meeting in late November?
No, so we would open that warrant tonight then?
You don't have specifically on the agenda, so, you know.
When's our next meeting?
Not until the first Monday in November.
We may, depending upon the next action that you have coming up, we may have a special meeting to deal with contract ratification. We could add to that, but.
Right, because we want to have.
Surely you jest.
Well,
I-
no.
I'm just trying to work it back. If we want to, you know, have the warrant close on the 2nd, we'd want to have at least some time with it open.
Yeah,
Well, that's more than sufficient time, a
I mean,
week.
but you could open a warrant tonight and do a deadline with the closing of the 2nd. And then have everything ready for informational purposes of coming into meeting with the board on the 6th.
Just giving more people time to.
I think, John, now that I look at it, I think that's
Well, the
fine.
only concern that I have, I think we need, I think we have to take a contingent vote, contingent on where we are with the books.
Yep.
I mean, if we're not, if this is not gonna help the books at all, we have no free cash to do, so there'll be very little that we can do at that time.
So
So if we open a warrant, can we then cancel
Yes.
that warrant?
Yes, so
If
you could
things-
come
okay.
back at your meeting on the 6th, and if there's nothing moving on the closing of the books,
Okay,
you cancel that meeting.
okay.
Okay.
do we want to, I know that would have to probably come in under new business. We talking, considering a date, so
No, yeah,
we
yeah,
could
it's-
indicate, we could,
You could do it,
we
because
could
it's on the
open,
agenda.
yeah, we can open
Okay.
it. So the motion would be to,
Yep.
to tentatively plan for a special town meeting to be held on November 29th. That's a Wednesday, I
I
believe.
guess to set the meeting for, yeah, so I would move to set a special town meeting for November 29th at 6 PM?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think
At 6 PM, with a location to be determined and the warrant to be opened immediately and closed on November 2nd at 5 PM.
That give you guys enough time?
Yeah, that works.
Chris?
Second the motion.
We have a motion made and seconded to set the date for the special town meeting for 29 November, Wednesday, location to be determined, and to open the warrant for this meeting immediately, and to close the warrant on November 2nd at 5 PM. And we have a motion made and seconded, so those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's a vote. Greg, can you just indicate to all the department heads that we've done this?
Yeah.
That the warrant is open? Doesn't mean it's, Candy Friday, Feeding Frenzy. It just means it's open and that they should discuss warrants, articles with you.
Yeah.
Because that would be helpful to us to explain, yes, you can, no, probably not. I mean, they can technically ask us to put a warrant article on. We can decline. But for a special town meeting, you realize it only takes about 10 certified voters to get you to put it on the warrant. Anyway,
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is to let the public know that there is
Yeah.
an open
Yes.
warrant. If
Yeah.
there are any citizen petitions that
Yeah.
are, to give
the
those time to be.
citizen recommendations, because they may not need a petition if they ask, we may say, yeah, sounds
Well,
good.
yeah.
Okay. We have, that enough direction?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
That's good, okay.
I'm fine.
Thank you so much for that. And just check on that meeting on the 29th, make sure that that works for Ellen.
Yep.
I think it will, okay.
She said she was free that week.
Okay, good. I think we're down to website hosting services. We voted to do that and move forward, right?
Yeah, but I owed you a copy of the proposal.
Okay,
So the proposal was in the packet.
yeah,
I think I indicated to you that the cost is comparable to what we're paying right now, at least in the first year.
mm-hmm,
So the total cost, including the setup fee, the one-time setup fee, is $5,170. We pay just slightly less than that, but then in the second and third years of the contract,
mm-hmm.
the cost would actually go down.
Well, in my opinion, it needs a shot in the arm upgrade, and this is a very, very financially possible and doable proposal for us. You've seen samples of their work, so
They're willing to do a
make-believe thing, right?
yeah,
for
and I
us.
asked if they were willing to do it at night, and they said no.
Yeah, that's
But they're
okay.
willing to do it during the day, so
Sure.
if anyone wants to come by and I can kind of throw some dates out there,
Will they do it virtually, or will they?
virtually.
Oh, well, then they can, probably it's easier for
Give
us
us a
to
link and
tune
we can
in.
all
Sure,
join separately.
sure,
Mhm.
yeah.
Now,
Sure.
does this do anything, as far as, web hosting emails and data backing up, or does that stay where it is now as far as files, emails? That would be separate from this, right?
Isn't that all done through the Google Cloud, everything is backed up on that?
Okay, so this isn't changing any of that?
No,
Okay. I know some websites run their own, hosting
Mhm.
as far as that goes, so.
Well, I think those are the questions, John, before we sign and seal, that they give us a little demo and.
yeah, let me ask
Yeah.
them for some dates on the demo, and
Yeah,
then I
and
can send out.
then you can
what's
ask
best
those
for everyone.
questions, because
Yeah.
we want to be sure.
And then-
What's this will do, though, is this will take a lot of time for the shift, for people to write stuff about their departments, and for them to put, little pictures on, and because we'll have some
I
responsibilities.
mean, the good news is, once we say we want to go with them, there is some time. So this
Yeah.
isn't gonna be a Greg Valiakonis project.
Oh, too
It's-
bad.
It's gonna be handed off, because it does take,
You're way too happy when you say that.
it could take 6 to 8 weeks.
Oh, minimum.
You can see that
Yeah,
technology's not necessarily my bailiwick, but I'm better with it.
okay.
Now, there'd have to be site mapping and determining,
Yeah.
Yeah,
different subpages, but.
And how it clicks down, and we're user-friendly, and
Mhm.
And, you know, we want a little flash, we want some things to move and, just kidding.
And we want pictures of all of our town officials too.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I think that's probably a big public concern,
I'm sure
to
it
have a
is.
picture with three of us.
I was just gonna say file photo not found.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so we're good with that. Do you need anything else from us, a vote?
Not on that, no.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we just have a Council on Aging member resignation letter, Bernice Miller, who I believe has served on the Council on Aging for numbers of years. She has declined to continue in that volunteer role. Obviously, we'll respect her wish to resign, accept her letter of resignation with regret and with many thanks for her service to the community. We have,
I would move to accept the resignation.
we have a motion made to accept the resignation
Second.
letter. We have a motion made and seconded. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then, if we could just get a count too on,
Who's actually on that group?
yeah, how many positions are available there, so we could get that information out to the public. See if there are any people interested.
I don't think we need a motion for that. I think
No,
you
I'm
can just,
making a note.
okay, thank you. We need a wage authorization in the fire department. Anybody want to take a chance for the, is it Robert or Robber?
Oh, Robert,
Robert.
oh, sorry.
Okay. Anyone, for Mr. Foreman?
Financiari.
Financiari, Robert Financiari of Fire Department personnel on call for $21.04 an hour. Do we have a motion?
I move to approve the wage authorization for Robert Fornaciari for $21.04 per hour as an on-call, per diem / on-call firefighter.
Second.
So a motion made and seconded to approve the wage authorization as presented. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving now to old business. We have a letter from Mr. Tom Gravel, who has been at the meeting a couple times explaining his concern about a culvert pipe seemingly servicing or placed there by the town some years ago, directing rainwater from the road, I think that's Town Farm Road, onto his property. He asked, the letter obviously should be recognized in the motion, in the minutes of the meeting. But I guess, Greg, I'll just ask you for best next steps.
Yeah, so I think there's a couple things we should do now that we've received a formal letter, and a letter that gives us certain deadlines.
Mhm.
I'm gonna have the DPW come back with a cost for either capping, relocating, or extending the pipe. Granted, that's not necessarily what's proposed, but I also, given the fact that there was a deadline in there, and the fact that the easement has been around for a while, but not the easement, but the pipe has been there for at least 50 or 60 years, I do want to have council take a look at it.
Okay.
There's something called a prescriptive easement, and that's what I was kind of looking at while we were in our meeting. And I don't know if it applies in this situation, but it's certainly something that we want to look at. It's one of the options that we may have available to us.
Okay.
But I think that's a legal question and a legal issue.
Okay.
And those
Now,
are the actions I would recommend.
what was the date and time, did you date and time to stamp this letter that we received this letter? We talked about it at a meeting, but we didn't receive the actual letter. I saw you back and forth with some things saying that he was trying to send it to us, but we couldn't seem to
Yeah.
get
I
it.
tried that night.
Yeah, and then it took about a week from that last meeting.
So I'm just saying, what
so
date are we talking about that we actually received the letter?
I couldn't look at my email. Oh, you can look at
Okay, well, we don't need it for this evening, but just so that we can count to 30 days. So if you can talk with the attorney. I mean, I hate to call him and say, hey, can we have an extension? When really, at least it took him a week to get the in writing document to us. So,
I mean, you're receiving it tonight.
yeah, well,
I
okay.
know. I know.
I'm okay with that. If it was 40 or 50 years ago, I can't even blame Earl Sample. I mean, this is like, I don't know who I'd blame it after, before Earl. But anyway, And my guess is, that many years ago, there was almost nothing up on Town Farm Road.
It wasn't,
So it was just draining off the hill of there was no new homes up there. Those are all within the last 25, 30 years, I'd say.
it was probably just a handshake. Yeah, you can put a pipe through there in this way.
Exactly.
Right.
Or
Exactly.
the paperwork was never done.
Yeah, or that,
Which is not an appropriate way to be operating.
no. But I mean, I
Those
would,
are the things that come back to bite you half
Yeah.
a century later.
They sure did. But we're not.
Sometimes
Hey,
2
no,
weeks
yeah.
later. You never know.
But in this case, Barry's not the only town, because it happens.
Oh, no, it
in
happens.
all these towns.
Right. Just need to make sure it doesn't happen anymore.
I would agree.
okay. So we know what we're doing with that.
Yep.
Tom Gravel, board policies, the second reading.
Yeah.
I did have some, the fire chief did call me with some suggestions, and I told him everything in writing. And the second reading, and the board would consider any omissions that, additions to policies, and so forth for review. The fire chief, he did give us one. Did the police give us one too? I know that the chief spoke to me, and I said, give us something in writing. Huh?
I'm sorry, I think it's the October 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, just before we get too deep into the policy, there were a couple of the town's labor unions that did reach out to me. You saw a letter previously from the Teamsters local
Yeah.
in Worcester, and also the fire union had reached out to me concerning their concerns about the town's bargaining obligations for GPS tracking ability. I put a line through it with the most recent version that I have in front of you, because I think it would be premature to establish a policy without fulfilling our bargaining obligations.
Exactly. Well, or if we have that intent, we have to bargain it.
That's right.
And I don't know if there's other things in here that if a change in the current policy is significant enough to change working conditions, we really need to evaluate whether we have to bargain that.
Right, so most of the policy is unchanged from when it was originally
Yeah.
adopted by the board back in 2005, and no one has raised any issues or concerns about it. But there were, again, a couple of things that were put in recently. One of them, if you go to third page, items number 14 and 15, the vehicles with the town seal is required was added. The tinting of municipal vehicles was also added, and then we've already talked about the matter of GPS tracking ability.
I know that the window, the tinting stuff, I believe the Chief Saborn has some concerns about whatever, the current vehicle fleet that he has. He really needs to put in writing what it is and what he would like to recommend that we modify in this policy, or come to the meeting and speak to that. And
Chief Rogowski also had
Yes.
comments on that he
Yeah.
shared with me and are also in this written
Yeah.
letter.
Yeah. And then another thing,
Regarding
Chief
how it affects
Saborn-
equipment in the vehicles.
yeah, Chief Saborn talked with me about the fact that he has a individual policy, contract
Right.
that describes what personal use is. I believe the fire chief has a similar thing in his.
Yep.
And according to DPW, that there is a vote by the commission to authorize the personal use, and so I asked for the copy of the minutes where the commission has made that vote. Whether or not there should be, for the department, the superintendent of DPW, whether there should be a memorandum of understanding, so that if there are things that the commission has voted or authorized, that we know what those things are and that we include them appropriately. But at any rate, we're going back and checking on meeting minutes in that regard. Because if it's not substantiated either by contract or meeting minutes, then it's really didn't happen. One thing that Chief Saborn was concerned about not being able to have his daughter or his wife at times in his vehicle that has been authorized for personal use. That has been part and parcel of what they've done for personal use, and so I think we have to have a discussion about that.
Right, and I mean,
Those are contractual anyway. so-
those are separate from this
And this is,
policy.
and
Yeah.
this is what I,
Well, we just have to make sure
Well,
that we
yes.
all know that that's separate from this.
Right, I think the other thing that was another interesting one brought up by Chief Rogowski in here is the 10-inch seal on vehicles, which I think makes a lot of sense for most vehicles. But I do understand where, having a higher visibility, higher reflective, fire on the side might be more effective than a town seal.
Well,
for
yeah, but you want to
emergency
identify the
response
town
vehicles.
as well. There's nothing on that car, there's a little tiny seal.
I'm talking about fire trucks, though.
The fire trucks themselves, well, they got Barre written all over, obviously.
Right, but
You
this
know,
policy says they have to have a 10-inch seal on them, so we need to take that into account. So we're not forcing seals onto the, doors of fire trucks that already have higher visibility,
Yeah.
Barry written on it.
Well, we could say,
At least.
identifying the town in one way or another.
Yeah.
Right, so I think we need to
Yeah.
modify
Well,
that
well,
in some way to
well,
take
we-
that into account.
And I think we can
Um,
certainly continue to tweak things to
Yeah.
make it so that it makes a lot of sense. The use of GPS, that would be an impact bargaining requirement. We couldn't just put
The
it into a
thing with
policy.
that GPS, my thing is like mainly with the bigger trucks,
Mhm.
the asset trackers. When we're going to the town to ask for a $700,000 fire truck, and I think we wanna watch, closely how these fire trucks drive around and what kind of miles they put on, and tracking your asset to find out, when you're replacing the truck and it's $700,000, and we gotta know more about it.
Well, I'm not saying that we shouldn't do it, I'm just saying it might be subject to collective bargaining.
Well, maybe, yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just,
Right.
It's sort of like police cameras.
Mhm.
yeah.
I'm not saying
Yeah.
we don't think we should do it,
Yeah.
but we may have to collectively bargain it.
Yeah.
Um,
I think they're more important on the bigger, more expensive,
mhm.
vehicles, ambulance as well.
Well, ambulances are busy vehicles, I see them everywhere. Wow. Okay, so we know that we have another several days, or at least till we meet again, which is not until November 6th. Okay, we got a little extra time this week that we don't meet.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
So we
It
did,
looks like we're ready to adjourn.
nope.
I'm sorry,
Under new business, item C,
did I miss something?
consideration of town administrator.
Oh, yes, indeed, I did. Sorry.
I thought you were just saving it for the end.
You wanna let Buzz know that we're on?
I'm actually gonna call him right now.
Okay.
I
So,
think you wanted to do that last, so I
Yeah.
didn't say
um,
I assumed because we were calling Buzz in, that's why it was just a,
yeah.
Yeah,
to the
no,
end.
it seemed,
Sure. I can check.
Buzz? I'm gonna put you on speaker, okay? I don't know why the meeting's not on TV.
There's a problem, he has to.
It's not you, there's a problem with the cable system.
is
Yeah,
it live on
we're-
YouTube?
We're here in one meeting.
If he reboots,
Hang
then
on,
he,
I'll put you on
then
right
he
now,
can't get
thank
back
you.
in, so he's
Oh,
gonna
okay.
reboot at the end and upload everything.
Oh, okay, so everything just gets uploaded after the meeting.
After me, he couldn't.
See, your
stream
mom and
live
dad are
because
missing you tonight.
What's that?
Your mom and dad have to gonna listen to you later.
I have to wait till tomorrow.
Oh, no, it's my kids and my wife's grandfather.
Oh.
Those are the ones who watch it religiously.
Hey, Buzz,
Hi, Madam Chair.
do you have any further information for us on the candidate that we interviewed for a second time that we should be aware of before we move for further consideration?
I do not. I provided Greg with some, information in terms of, the references that I checked. I talked to both the town administrator there and the fellow who did the auditor, and they both gave her good reviews.
Okay. Did you query the current town administrator for whom she works, talking about her, what a transition would look like? What did he think? The transition would be a position that she could put her arms around and handle?
Yes, he thought she'd be ready for this position with, the kind of support we talked about in terms of around the edges, in terms of HR and that sort of thing. But in terms of the finance experiences that she's had there, budget, operating budget, capital budget, auditing, grant writing and grant administration, that sort of thing. You know, he had absolutely no problem with her experience in terms of the financial, and then the general operating issue. You know, she attends the select board meetings and finance committee, obviously town meeting, so is familiar with the routine and the procedures in the office.
Okay. Anyone have questions for Buzz?
No.
Okay, shall I entertain that the board make a decision on this matter?
Sure.
We'll entertain that. I've had much conversation with Greg regarding this, conversation with a number of individuals who live and work in the area where this individual has lived and worked, and have not had any person or individual make a comment that was in any way dissuade this board from perhaps taking, positive action on this individual for this position. I do recognize the strength of this individual in the area of finances for the town. She has very extensive, experience in procurement and is a certified procurement officer. She has managed the audits for the community. She is a very strong financial manager, and that is a good thing for the town of Barre. She does lack some pieces of the job, and that would be potentially, she's a grant writer, she's a grant person who manages grants once they're received. She's a person that she's had some experience in managing personnel in North Brookfield Savings Bank, where she has had numerous individuals under her direction, where she has done evaluations, she has done situations where there's been a need for the person to be reprimanded, and she has done those things with, they said, for example, she has a way of not intimidating but still holding people accountable. All of those things were good things. I did not have any one person indicate, oh my God, she's applying for what? She would never be able to do that job. There were no comments like that. There were certainly many comments that would have me believe that this is an individual who would have the capacity to manage with great expertise the financial situation in this community, which would be great. I think that there would be an area of concern where I would say managing the HR piece would be a challenge in our town, not necessarily because she has limited experience there, but because we do not have a shall we say, we do not have a HR system that is understood by the people who work with us. We don't have really up-to-date job descriptions. We have failed to have a robust or even adequate evaluation system for the community. And therefore, we're going to be asking this person to come in and not only manage the financial arm, which is very important, but also to manage the human resource portion of the workload of this position, without necessarily providing her with a sound, base. We're not sound there. You can't walk in and just say, oh, I'll just plug in what they already do.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of work.
A new system would need to be developed.
And a system would need to be developed. And a system would need to be developed that includes, I believe, personnel support. In other words, there needs to be some portion of a position, provided by this. I keep wanting to call us a district, and I apologize for that. But the community has to take the responsibility to say, our town employees are very important, and how they are managed and cared for and, appropriately compensated needs to be well managed by us. And we need some person with a lot of personnel experience to not only help Tammy with the transition, but to also ensure that we're moving ahead with as much strength as possible in this transition. We have had more transitions in this position than we really should, and it has not helped the community. It's just not helped us. So we need to put a little bit of our money where our mouth is, and we need to provide her with the time and support and mentoring necessary to fulfill all the obligations that I see for the position. my opinion only, but I would recommend that we do hire Tammy Martin with the idea that we will have further background checks by our consultant, and those being clean and appropriate, and that we would provide some human resource experience person to help her in this transition. That'd just be my recommendation for what it is worth.
Is it time for some people from the peanut gallery to say something?
Well,
Is it appropriate?
well, what we would like to do is just get a motion on the floor so we can discuss it.
Oh, okay.
You know, I would say, you know, my biggest concern, similar to yours after the first one, was the HR, that sort of aspect of it, the management side of things. During the second interview, I think there were a lot of responses that certainly gave me assurances. Hearing the reports back on the people spoken to, I do believe she would be capable of handling developing those systems. I don't think she's someone who's going anywhere anytime soon if we were to offer her the position, unless we deliberately run her out of town, which I would hope we don't. But,
I hope you don't do.
well, not me. I mean,
Yeah.
the board or departments or, you know, however. But I don't want to see that happen to anybody, obviously. So I would also lean favorable towards offering the position to her as well. So, Greg, sorry. Mark, if you have.
Mark, any comment?
This one I'm having a real tough time with. Obviously, like I said before, I've never hired anybody in a position that's this important. You guys have said it all, pretty much. The HR thing is a must.
Mhm.
And that's one of the most important things here. I mean, it seems that she has all the financial ends covered. References covered, everything is, I mean, but there is that little bit of a hole there
Mhm.
in, management.
But she does have more management background than I had initially thought.
Yeah, I
With the bank work and-
agree with that, but.
I think that, Mark says this is the, time that he's hired somebody for an important position like this. This is not my first time hiring somebody for a very important position, very much like this.
I understand that.
And I will tell you that, here's my gut thought, okay, for what this is worth. She demonstrates to me and to the people with whom she's worked and the stuff that she's accomplished, that I've looked into, that she's an extremely hard worker. And she doesn't think it's somebody else's fault or somebody else's problem when there's something wrong. And she will jump in, both feet, two hands, and do anything she can to help you fix your problem or me fix my problem, or I think probably a citizen help to fix their problem. And that's of critical import.
Mhm.
I believe she'll outwork her deficit. And sometimes, we have all been in a job situation where we've not had experience in the position before, but we've made application for it. And, people say, well, yeah, she was really a good teacher, but I don't know what she could do as a principal. And somebody stood up and said, I think she'll work her way to fix whatever she needs to fix. And I guess I feel that about her. And I think with our support, and it has to be our collective support, and that includes you, Greg, as we do some transitioning.
Yep.
And I've talked with Greg quite a bit about the position and about her, his ideas and situation. And I think that we're going to all be responsible for helping this person be successful.
I think, the people who have experience already in this position, they've either, used a different town as a springboard, or,
Mhm.
we've certainly had situations where we've been a springboard, and I
Mhm.
think this is someone who's not looking for that necessarily, but wants to find a place to obviously would develop as a town administrator. I think, Greg, you might have said last time that you know, when you first had your first town administrator job, you're a very different person than you are now, for sure.
I knew half as much as she did when I took my first job.
Yeah.
You know, I knew, and I was left to kind of drift on my own, and I learned the job over a period of time. Those were much less taxing times. Things were much more easygoing back in those days, less political. But I think that she's a very good candidate. If you look at similar communities that are hiring, there are not necessarily a plethora of people who have significant experience as chief administrator or chief executive officers. But the fact that we have a person who has relevant, good experience with a clean and a solid track record it means a lot. And I think we've done quite well to end up with her at the end of the day.
Sam, I guess it's your turn.
Well, I want to, hold on a second.
Oh, sure.
I mean, I think all of that, everything that everybody has said here is valid, and important. And I know that the people in this building now, it's important that we keep who's here, working together. And I think it's very important that someone like Tammy may come in and she might have different ways about doing things. She's going, without stepping on toes, without causing, you know what I mean, we don't need that here. We don't need any more problems. We need it to flow. So it's gonna have to be a give and take on both ends. I don't know.
Well, it certainly, that's one thing that she was complimented on by the North Brookfield Savings Bank Group. They felt that she was very capable, but like she'll say, we need a clean audit, Barry. How are we gonna work together to get a clean audit?
Yeah.
And that means, maybe there's stuff that the select board has done that we need to do differently. There's maybe things that, because we do things the way that they've always been done, not necessarily the way we should do them. And so my concern is that whether it's the sewer department, the water department, or us, she will bring an expertise to us and say, you can't do enterprise fund exactly that way. You should do this and this. And we'll go, oh, why do you say that? And say, well, she'll say, take a look at your audit. Your audit says, and she will be walking around with the audit. At least that's what they tell me. And saying, we can do better than this. And the thing of it is, even if somebody doesn't want to do better than this, it's like our obligation to do better than this.
And she did seem to me as someone who will not let herself be ignored.
Yeah.
I think there's different ways people approach that, and maybe someone might look for someone who won't be ignored because they'll go kicking and screaming. But she seems like someone who won't be ignored because she'll go there and hold their hand and
Help them.
Until they come to. But so I think there's different ways to
Our hands are gonna get worn out.
Well, the thing of it is, some of us, maybe myself included, we need to change to make the town better and stronger. We need to do some things differently, I'm guessing. I will tell you that I've learned a whole lot in a short period of time, as John and I and you, and there's just so much that we need, that we're responsible for, and so little authority to really make it happen. That's what I find frustrating. And so when you say, her obligation will be to make us better, and will you need to break an egg or two to sometimes, make an omelet? Probably.
Yeah.
But if she comes to me and she says, Maureen, when you open a selectmen's meeting, you shouldn't do this and that. And I go, oh, okay. I'm not gonna take that as a horrible thing. I'm gonna say, oh, okay, the meetings could be better if I modified my behavior. I would think that's a good thing.
That's you.
Right. There are some people who will take that person.
I know, but you know what?
And she seems like the type of person who can handle that.
Yeah.
I hope so.
Well, you have to take people for.
It's hard to know.
Okay,
for sure.
sometimes I always say, there's two kinds of people. There's people who can't and people who won't. People who can't, I say, how can I help? How can I help? Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I have somebody come in and help? And that means her too. And if you won't, then I say, why won't you? And if it is not a reasonable, sane message that I receive, I say to them, I'm really sorry, because you have to here. And if it means you have to do, I don't know, X paperwork on time, if you have to not do this paperwork at all, if Department of Revenue changes how it's gonna do its thing, we have to change with the Department of Revenue. Because a lot of changes come down on our backs that none of us like. So I'm just of a person that nobody gets into a new job having to be responsible for making change and improving things, not upsetting some people who will say, oh, I've always done it this way, do I have to change? And yeah, sometimes we have to change. I'm not thinking there's gonna be, wholesale roughshod or anything like that, but delivering change, being a change agent is a challenge and a skill for a leader. And if anybody wants to be a leader, they've gotta be committed to understanding sometimes you have to lead change. And nobody likes change, and sometimes you can make it happen, and people look back and go, oh, did we change? You have to do more than just, rearrange the chairs on the deck of the Titanic, sometimes. It's like, look at the iceberg and hope you can yell loud enough so everybody else sees it. I don't know. But anyway, that's just me whining and complaining, and then you have,
I've observed Greg Valuconis. We are really blessed. And tonight, I counted 13 times where people said, "And what do you think, Greg? And what's your idea of this, Greg?" You may need to say, "What's your idea on this,
Tammy.
Tammy Martin?" And she may say, "I have no experience.
Mhm.
I don't know."
Mhm.
She can't be responsive. However, I've listened to you, John. I've listened to you, Maureen. I've listened to you, Mark. And of course, I'm the lucky guy because I don't have to make a decision.
Yeah, you are.
You are.
But I would like to say something, is that I've seen this town where the first year and a half, the town administrator is in the learning stage. The next year and a half, the town administrator is in the knowing stage. And
They're
the
going.
next year and a half, they're in another town.
Yeah.
What I said before, many weeks before here, before you guys, is that when we hire someone, we develop a contract, we need to have this important benefit for the town administrator to carry on. And so people say, well, where's the money gonna come from? Well, every year we get free cash.
Well, not every year.
Well, generally, if everything is done correctly and everything's filled out correctly, we get free cash. I would think maybe that you need to have some sort of a provision where you say, we will allocate a certain amount of free cash, percentage of free cash, this needs to be a bylaw, knowing very well that we don't have to say, we want this person to stay, where are we gonna get the money? And this person says, hey, I'm so experienced, I'm sorry, I love you guys, but I'm history. So I think, and there's never been anything like that, as long as I've been here in Barre, there's never been a provision where we have allocated monies in advance, where we can say, this part of the contract, if we love you, and we wanna love you because we want the town to do well. We don't want the town to have a problem where the free cash isn't certified and all of a sudden the paperwork doesn't get done and to throw up our hands and say, oh, we missed out this time because, and we have been searching for this elusive bond rating for enormous amount, many years. And people are amazed, and we don't have it.
Well, I'm not amazed. I mean, if you have to understand the very tiny position the town of Barry's in, the town of Berlin is in, it's almost impossible for them to generate a bond rating. They're just too small. For example, the only reason we got Ruggles Lane built, the only reason you got Quabbin built is because it was the 5 towns. And, you know, the capacity of those entities to actually pay the bond. But,
Isn't it worth,
well, no, I'm not saying we shouldn't
isn't it worth
aspire to.
searching for?
It's important to aspire to it. And you can get a bond ready
Aspire, that's a good word.
for a smaller amount of money. So when I think about the fire station that's probably, that we really need in the community, and I'm, you know, just using the number of the $17 million that they say it might cost, there's no way we'd get a bond rating, okay, for that kind of money, I'm guessing. But with a little help from the federal government, which many of our surrounding towns have gotten, but when you're looking for a bond, you have to have good financials. You can't say, well, here's our audit in the last 3 years, it's really bad, and we haven't improved one bit year after year after year, because it doesn't demonstrate any effort on our part to clean up our financial house. So I do see there's many, many opportunities that lie before us if we can get someone who will stay and work with us and help us grow and be better at what we do, meaning this board as well as the employees. And she will be better for having come here, I believe. I think there are things she can learn. So that's what we aspire for, is this wonderful and collegial relationship that benefits the community that we serve.
I
And I
understand
think-
Greg, how you come is gonna let us lean on him.
Yep. Her too.
Yep.
Her too.
So I guess,
Yeah.
do we have a motion?
All right, I move to authorize Municipal Resources Incorporated to make a conditional offer of employment to Tammy Martin for the position of Barre, Mass. Town Administrator. This offer is conditioned upon the satisfactory background review, investigation conducted by Municipal Resources Incorporated, physical exam if required, and the successful negotiation of contractual terms of employment by the Select Board.
We have a second? I'll second the motion. We have a motion made and seconded. We've had discussion already. Is there further discussion?
No.
Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Opposed.
One opposed. Okay, Buzz, I guess you have work to do now?
Yes, I do, and I'll get the paperwork started on our end, as far as obviously notifying the candidate, and then getting the background investigation instituted.
Now, can you give us, as soon as practicable, can you give us, the results of your background check as well as her confirmation or lack thereof to accept the position, and date that she would expect and/or we would expect her to begin to work with us? When you can.
Yeah, so what'll happen is she will get a request for the acknowledgement that she will accept the position. She'll get that back to me.
Okay.
And then that will kick off the background investigation, and she'll get information from the investigator and all that. And at the same time, I'll be talking to her about, the transition from Warren to here to Barre. And I would suggest that the board, next step for you folks is to form I'll call it a contract negotiating subcommittee, and reach out to her to start talking in terms of the terms and conditions of a contract. And I know Greg said you would assist with it, and that's going to be very helpful. But I think it's important for the board to be sitting down with her at this point and working through the terms and conditions. I would not leave it to Greg. I think it's important that you folks have that kind of direct conversation with her in terms of the expectations of, the contract, the terms and the language, that sort of thing.
Okay, Buzz, will you make the first call to her about you this meeting this evening?
Yes.
Okay.
I will do that, yep,
So she will be expecting a phone call from someone, one of us?
yes,
Okay,
Buzz?
yes,
We should be, this contract negotiation committee should be a member of the board and myself. Is that what you would recommend?
yes, yep,
And then,
correct.
should we begin putting together the template of a contract while the background investigation is ongoing so that we don't waste any time and
No.
we've got terms and everything kind of fleshed out before the background report comes in?
Yes, that is our advice. Don't wait for the background, because that could take 2 weeks, could take 2.5 weeks, depending on how hard her references are to contact and, when people get back to the person doing it. So do not wait. I would suggest you start talking to her and pull some documents, pull a document together pending the the background investigation. Make sure you folks are satisfied with what you see in writing there.
I
okay.
assume contract-wise, we would handle this essentially like we do with unions, where one person is appointed, but we would all meet together in executive session to,
Exactly.
Yeah.
okay, to hammer out.
Yeah, I think the board the whole board needs to be involved in that, considering it is a 3-member board. If it was a 5-member board, it'd be a little different approach. But with 3 members, I think it's important for all 3 of you to have knowledge about the contract and the terms and conditions.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. We had talked, I don't know if you heard our conversation, but we're really concerned about getting some support in human resources. And-
Yes.
And could you please talk with Greg at some time certain that he and you can talk about what would be best next steps for us in trying to put together the program or the opportunity to make that happen?
Yes, and what exists today that didn't exist when Greg and I were coming up, is the Small Town Administrators Association, small town group that exists in Central and Western Mass. They have programs. They're a tremendous resource
Oh, good.
that will benefit you folks and benefit Tammy immensely,
Okay.
as well as the Massachusetts Municipal
Yeah.
Association. There's all manner of training programs for human resources, personnel, budgeting, finance. So there's a lot of resources that exist today to help this individual.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Buzz.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm just gonna suggest that, if there's no one else, I'd like to volunteer you to be on the negotiating committee. I think it's important that you as chair and I kind of lead the charge, and it'd be nice to have you so designated and approved by the board tonight, so that we can kind of begin this process ASAP.
I would move to designate Maureen as our representative for the contract negotiation for our town administrator position.
A second.
We have a motion made and seconded to approve the chair of the committee to have the responsibility of working with the current interim town administrator to create the contract document for the committee's review and approval. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, looks like a vote.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we are at the conclusion pretty much of our meeting.
I would say so.
And I thank the board for moving forward with this very busy sort of piece of the agenda, which is looking much into the future and hoping, obviously, that this is an individual who will contribute as much as she has to other agencies where she's worked and provide us with the leadership that we need. Thank you, Buzz, also for taking time to work with us, and I think we've been sort of a stubborn group as far as continuing to interview people, and so on and so forth. But I know it's a difficult environment to hire people in any walk in life, because it seems like it's a challenge.
Yes, it is, and you did fine.
Well,
Good
that
group to
remains
work
to be
with.
seen, Buzz, so I hope we did fine. 2 years from now, we'll sit here and we'll hopefully look at each other and say, we did very well.
I think you will.
I agree. I think we
Thank you,
will.
Buzz.
Thanks so much.
Right, I move to adjourn.
Thank you.
We have a motion to
Good night.
move to
Second.
adjourn. We have a
Good
motion
night.
made and seconded to adjourn. Let's adjourn at 7:55.
Aye.
Are we off?
You kept count tonight, huh? You kept count. You kept count of how many times the board asked for my opinion.
You know?